Okay, good evening. My name is Margaret Hefferly. I'm the chair of Council 1 of the Family Support Councils here in New Jersey. The councils were established as part of the Family Support Act of 1993 to give family members and people with developmental disabilities themselves a voice within the system. I think you've heard the phrase and through multiple groups, though, nothing about us without us. And so they established the 10 councils in the state of New Jersey. And you can look on our map, Kyoko is going to share it to find your council. We're Council 1, which covers Morris, Sussex, and Warren counties. We meet monthly, public meetings. It's always the third Tuesday of the month. And when we meet publicly, which we've done once so far post-pandemic, it's at Wegmans in Parsippany or Hanover, whichever you check, but you'll be able to see the address on our link. So our next meeting would be July 19th, and that will probably be a hybrid meeting, but a number of us will be meeting at Wegmans. And typically at our meetings, our council members report out because the council members' goal, we're all volunteers, is to provide information to families in a variety of ways. And one of them is in a presentation like this, to gather information from families about services through both the Division of Developmental Disabilities and the Children's System of Care under the Department of Children and Families, which is known to most families as Perform Care. So typically we have council members who sit on those committees, and they sit with their monthly meetings with the Department of Children and Families and DDD and give input that we receive from families. So it's a good way to, make some changes within the system when they hear from the voice of families. So I'm going to just introduce a number of our council members that are on here. So we have, I don't know how everybody else's looks, Melissa Acree, who has, we all have a family member with a developmental disability. Gabrielle Bohan, who is our vice chair, Alicia Teto, and Mercedes Wojtowski, who is also the executive director of the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities, which on some level is our host. I think there might be a couple missing. So I think without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker. Trisha Bailey is currently the trainer and community liaison with the New Jersey Support Coordination at the Caregivers of New Jersey. She's an experienced support coordinator and has been serving families in her area for the past 5 years. She is the mom of 2 children, one of whom has special needs. Her personal experience with disability has given her a passion to help families, especially helping them walk through the transition process into adulthood.
Thank you, Margaret. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here tonight. I'm so excited to be able to share this information with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And so I'm going to be talking tonight about the DDD budget, and I'm going to be talking about the different services that are available within the realm of DDD and the services that you can use your budget for. So I just want to talk a little bit about where I come from and who I'm representing tonight. So I am part of the Family Resource Network. And so the Family Resource Network really is a comprehensive family-focused umbrella of organizations that are designed to meet the growing need for community-based programs and services to individuals and families with a variety of disabilities and different chronic conditions. The Family Resource actually consists of 3 affiliate organizations. So there's Autism Family Services of New Jersey, Caregivers of New Jersey, and Epilepsy Services of New Jersey. So I actually work under sort of the branch of Caregivers of New Jersey, which really is, in a sense, almost like it's an affiliate organization that really is here to provide a central point of contact on caregiving issues, advocacy related issues, support groups. And then another thing that we do is also we provide support coordination. So we have been providing support coordination for around 15 years now. We were one of the original 3 support coordination agencies in the state. And so, like Margaret said, I've been doing support coordination and now the trainer for our agency, and I train all of our new support coordinators and am a community liaison. So thank you all again for joining me tonight. I'm hoping that all of you here are either walking through the process of transitioning your adult child into DDD, which is the adult system of care. So again, it was mentioned that the children's system is Perform Care, but once your child graduates high school and is around the age of 21 and 18 to 21, really, they're going to be transitioning now into the adult system, which is the Division of Developmental Disabilities. I give a whole webinar about that whole process, but I'm really here tonight to talk a little bit more about the budget itself and then the services that are available. So I want to talk a little bit first about the NJCAT. So once DDD determines that your child is eligible for services, something called the NJCAT is going to be completed. So the NJCAT stands for New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment Tool. And this is a very long and thorough assessment. It's about 14 pages long, and generally speaking, the DDD intake worker will give you a call and do this kind of interview, so to speak, over the phone. And really, this assessment is going to rate your child in 3 different areas. So the types of supports that they need in terms of their self-care, the types of supports and abilities that they have behaviorally, and as well as medically. And your child is going to get 3 different scores in each of those areas. Okay, so the way DDD does it is they will rate your child a 1 to 5 in the self-care category, 1 to 5 in the behavioral category, and a 1 to 5 in the medical category. So a number 1 would be someone that does not have a lot of support needs or issues, versus a 5, which is the highest level of care needed. So all of the answers that you give, well, the answers given really should be provided by the person that is the closest to the child. I talk to families over and over and over again. And one of the things I always say is, you know, for the past 18, 20 years of your child's life, you have been their cheerleader. You have been the one always thinking in that positive light and making them sound as good as possible. But the NJCAT is not where you want to do this. If your child even has a minimal amount of needed support, you want to answer that question as if they need that support all of the time. Okay. Why? Well, all of the answers that you give are going to result in what we call a tier letter. So within DDD, there are tier letters A through E. There actually is, I believe, an F, but it's very, very uncommon to see an F. So your child will be assigned a tier letter. So a tier A individual is someone that requires the least amount of support, versus a tier E, there's the higher level of need there. Now, in addition, there is also something called an acuity differentiated factor, which might be added to that tier letter. And that really is normally given for individuals with high clinical support needs that are either based on medical and or behavioral concerns. So what might be some examples? Maybe some sort of uncontrolled seizure disorder, maybe, you know, a lot of different diagnoses that as a result, your child needs a nurse throughout the day. If your child has a feeding tube, for example, they will get that acuity. In terms of behavioral, if your child has severe behaviors and needs a 1 on one, for example, or will need a behavioral support plan, those individuals also will tend to get assigned that acuity factor. And what will that look like? Well, you'll see an uppercase letter for the tier, and then you'll see a lowercase letter A next to that. So any individual in any tier can be assigned that acuity factor. Now, the thing with the tier letters is that each tier letter corresponds to an individualized budget that you will receive from DDD. And so any types of services and supports that your child is going to need once they are leaving the school system, their DDD budget can be used for those supports. Now, each tier letter is also associated with a rate that providers are going to get paid for providing those services. So, for example, a tier C individual, a provider that is providing supports for a tier A individual is not going to receive as much money for an individual that is a tier E. Okay, so there is a higher rate of pay also that providers get based on the tier. So I want to show you, and hopefully you guys can all see this. This gives you an example of really the numbers involved in terms of the budget. On the left-hand side are those budget numbers for those individuals that are enrolled in the community care program waiver, versus on the right, those individuals that are enrolled into the supports program waiver. Now, a couple differences that you're going to see. Now, most individuals, when they graduate high school, they will be enrolled into the supports program unless there is some sort of identified need to where, that individual needs a lot more supports in the home, or if they have to live in a group home setting, for example, maybe DDD will enroll them into the community care program. But generally speaking, individuals will get enrolled automatically in the supports program. So I want you to think of the budget as two different buckets here. Okay, so let's look on this right-hand side in support. So you'll see there is a bucket for employment and day related services. So any sort of service that I'll be teaching you guys about later that is related to employment would come out of this employment day bucket. A day program, community-based supports, respite, for example, those things would come out of this employment day bucket first. Sorry about that. And then you'll see there's another bucket here for individual and family supports. So this might be things like PT, OT, speech, different goods and services that you might need. There's a bunch of different services that would first and foremost come out of this bucket first. Some services can overflow into the employment day bucket. I don't get into all of those details with you, but your support coordinator will be able to answer any of those questions for you. But you'll see a tier A individual, for example, gets an employment day budget of $17,050, whereas a tier E gets $52,820. So you can see there's quite a large difference in these numbers here based upon the different tier letters. Now, the community care program on the left side, one thing that's different from the supports program budget, there's this third bucket here. Okay, there is a third bucket called individual supports. Now, individual supports are used for in-home supports or supports within a group home setting. So again, for an individual to live in a group home, they have to be enrolled into that community care program. And the reason being is they need this third bucket to pay for it. There is still the employment day in the individual family supports buckets as well, but there is this third category. Now, any family So currently in our state, there is a waiting list for the community care program waiver. You can add your child to that waiting list at any time. You could do a simple Google search, community care program waiting list, and it'll walk you through the process how to get added. Your support coordinator does not need to do that. You can do it yourself. I think currently on the list, there's over like 1,500 people. So it could take years for your child to come up to that #1 spot, to where DDD would then move them from the supports program to the community care program, as long as they meet all of that criteria. So I always tell, family members, if you think you're not going to be able to care for your child 20 years from now, or you don't have any other siblings, get on the waiting list. This way you're on it, even if it takes years. There are times, like during emergencies and things like that, things that happen where, a child was living in a family home and something happens to a parent and they can't care for them anymore. DDD will look at individuals on a case-by-case situation and potentially enroll them sooner. So there are, issues like that come up, and DDD will consider that and make those changes. So again, I hope you can see, I just really want you guys to see the differences in the budgets, say between a tier A in the community care program versus a tier E. You could see there's quite a bit of difference, but again, a tier E individual is going to need that additional money for additional supports. Okay, so one question that I get a lot from parents, well, what if I don't have enough money or my needs change? Well, typically speaking, prior to COVID, individuals were automatically reassessed. The NJCAT reassessment was done every 5 years. Since COVID, that seems to have kind of fallen by the wayside. Your support coordinator can assist you with requesting an NJCAT reassessment at any time. The thing with an NJCAT reassessment request is, one, it has to be substantiated. So you really need to sort of plead your case, in a sense, to DDD, saying why you think your child needs an NJCAT reassessment. It has to also be requested by the family member or by the individual themselves. Your support coordinator cannot be the one to do it. DDD feels like there's a conflict of interest there in terms of your support coordinator helping you, fill out the NJCAT and things like that. So it has to be requested by you. Your support coordinator can send you the form and kind of coach you through that process, but you have to actually do the request. The other thing with reassessments is you're really never guaranteed a tier change just because you have a reassessment. And in all honesty, I have seen times where it kind of backfires on the family, that child was a tier C for whatever reason. They come back and they're a tier B, and then they lose money in their budget. So you really want to make sure, what I always tell families to do is go through that NJCAT yourself and mark it up. Mark up what is no longer the same or is inconsistent. Where have their needs changed in that NJCAT? And if you think it's a lot of substantial changes, then ask for the NJCAT reassessment. But if there's just a few things here or there that have changed and maybe, they've digressed in a couple of areas, I probably wouldn't risk it. But if there are substantial changes, then I would say move forward and ask for it. The other thing with a reassessment request is it can be denied. DDD can come back and say, well, we really don't agree that a reassessment is needed at this time. And a lot of the times they'll look to see how much of your budget you're actually using. So if you're going to ask for a reassessment because you want more money, but you're not exhausting your current budget, most likely DDD will say, sorry, we're not going to do a reassessment at this time. So can reassessments be requested and done? Absolutely, but they do need to be substantiated. Okay, a couple of miscellaneous things about the DDD budget itself. It's not actual money you're going to receive. So all of those numbers I showed you in those tables, you're not going to receive a check in the mail every year. What's going to happen is once that NJCAT is done, and completed, DDD will then say it's time for you to choose a support coordination agency that you want to work with. And that support coordinator that gets assigned to you is going to be the one that's going to help you find the services that you need for your child or services that you're interested in learning more about. Your support coordinator is then going to write something called the individualized service plan. Now, for those of you whose kids, which is probably most of you here, your kids have been in the school system, from K through 12, they've had an IEP, right? It's an education plan. Well, in the adult system, they're going to have an individualized service plan. It's the ISP. And your support coordinator will place and add services into that plan. So if you're interested in respite, if you want a gym membership, if you want a day program, they are going to add that into that service plan and submit it to DDD. Everything will get billed internally. Okay. You never have to worry about making sure you're staying within the budget. You don't have to forward paperwork to the provider agencies you want to work with. So your support coordinator will be the one that always handles all of that. Again, all billing is done by DDD and the provider agencies. The great thing also about support coordination is that DDD funds support coordination. So you choosing a support coordination agency and working with a support coordination agency, that does not come out of your child's DDD budget. DDD pays for that or funds that service for you. So that's a great thing. All right, so I'm going to move now into the second part of this presentation, and I'm going to talk and give you guys a little overview of all of the different services that are available that you can use the budget for. So these are the services in table format, but I'm actually going to go into a bit more detail. So the first one is assistive technology. So you can use the budget for assistive technology devices as well as assistive technology services. So what's an assistive technology device? Well, it's any item, a piece of equipment, some sort of product system that's going to be used to either increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of an individual. A service, on the other hand, is really directly going to assist the individual in either choosing, purchasing, or using the actual technology device. So what are some examples of this? Well, when it comes to assistive technology, if your child is interested in purchasing assistive technology, one of the first things that DDD requires is an evaluation, but the money will pay, your DDD budget will pay for that evaluation. The purchasing of the device, let's just say this device needs to be customized or fitted for your child. It can pay for that. If you need repairs or you have to replace it at some point, any sort of maintenance fees involved, or even if you need some sort of training on how your child can use it, or even you as the parent and guardian, how to use that device, and there's a charge for that, you can use the DDD budget to pay for that. When we talk about therapies, we're talking about occupational therapy, physical, and speech and language and hearing therapies. So the thing with therapy is there's kind of two different processes that a support coordinator will have to walk through in terms of adding therapy into your service plan. If your child needs habilitative therapy, which basically means this is something they need on an ongoing basis to maintain or increase, muscle strength, flexibility, their speech. Habilitative therapy can automatically get put into the service plan. All you need to do is get a script from your doctor, and the script has to say habilitative speech therapy, habilitative physical therapy. If it's rehabilitative in nature, so let's just say, for an example, God forbid your child and you get in a car accident and they need some sort of rehabilitation and they need PT. that has to first go through your insurance provider. You can't use the budget for that first and foremost. So again, your support coordinator is going to know all the ins and outs of all of that. But the good news is you can use the DDD budget for these kinds of therapies. Behavioral supports. So behavioral supports are individual and/or group counseling, behavioral interventions, diagnostic evaluations or consultations, all related to the individual's disability and that are necessary for your child to acquire or maintain appropriate interactions with others. I'm sure most of you are familiar with behavioral supports. Behavioral supports can occur and be provided within a day program setting, for example. You can purchase them from an outside provider agency as long as they're DDD approved, but they are available. For some individuals, they do require a behavioral support plan that be put in place. DDD will pay for that. The budget will pay for that assessment, as well as ongoing monitoring and things like that. Personal emergency response systems. So this is any sort of device that's going to help your child in case of an emergency. And so typically, I'm sure you guys, many of you remember that commercial online back in the day where this poor old woman has fallen and I can't get up. So this is a personal emergency response system, or we call them PERS devices. And these devices are connected either to a phone or some sort of emergency response center once the help button is activated or pressed. So the budget will pay for actually purchasing this equipment, installing it if it's needed. And a lot of these emergency response centers will charge a monthly fee for their service. The budget can be used for that as well. Career planning. So career planning is an employment planning and support service that provides assistance to your child to either obtain, maintain, or advance in a competitive job or some sort of self-employment. Career planning tends to be done for just a limited amount of time. It's not a long-term support. And really what it's going to do is it's going to help your child determine maybe the direction they want to go in terms of employment, developing some sort of plan for moving towards employment, evaluating what skills might be needed for them to move towards employment. It's a help really to help your child plan. Some examples of this might be, whatever provider agency that you decide to use, they would help your child fill out what's called an interest inventory or situational assessments. So they'll try to determine, what their strengths are, what they're interested in, and what types of jobs then would be related to that. So that's just an example. And they also might help develop a plan that's going to really state the career objective and guide them towards individual employment support. Cognitive rehabilitation tends to be for those who have traumatic brain injury. And basically what it is, it's a systematic, functional, orientated service of therapeutic cognitive activities. So first and foremost, an assessment would be needed, understanding really what deficits there are with the brain. And then they might do direct retraining, compensatory strategies, or maybe some sort of cognitive orthotics and prosthesis. I personally have not come across many individuals that need this, but it is available and the budget can be used for it. Community-based supports is a very popular service a lot of families do purchase. And community-based supports can be done within your home or in the community. You as the parent can be present or not, either is fine. And really what the goal is to really help your child gain greater independence, help them function more within the family setting, and also help them with inclusion in the community. And so what does this actually look like? Well, it's done in a one-to-one setting. Okay, so whatever agency you choose to go with, they would provide a direct support professional that would most likely come to your home. And you're going to tell them, well, what are the skills you want them to work on with your child? Is it daily living skills like maybe laundry, some cooking, teaching them how to clean better, organization of their room? Or maybe it's more community-based activities like ordering food in public or going grocery shopping and working on financial management, you know, how to make purchases, or maybe even socially, you know, how do they talk when they're in the community? How do they interact with others? So all of these types of things would fall within community-based supports. Dayhabilitation is also a very popular service for a lot of individuals. And these are services that provide education and training to help your child acquire skills and experience needed to participate in the community. So when we're talking about those skills, really what we're talking about are problem-solving skills, social skills, activities of daily living, leisure skills, adaptive skills. They're going to really help those individuals who just really need to kind of boost their skill sets. Activities and environments are designed really to foster the acquisition of skill building and building social skills as well as communication skills. And they are provided during daytime hours. So they're normally provided between the hours of 9 and 3. And you guys maybe have heard the term day program. So day programs are billed under the service of dayhabilitation. And again, typically it is done within the community, within 4 walls, within a program setting, or some other community-based setting as well. Environmental modifications. So if you need some sort of physical adaptation to your home so that your child is safer, they can acquire your home better or safer, so that they can function with greater independence in your home, that would fall under environmental modifications. So this could look like a ramp to your house, grab bars in the shower, maybe widening doorways, bathroom modifications, even emergency generators for medical equipment specifically, air filters and humidifiers, stair lifts, ceiling track systems for Hoyer lifts and things like that would all fall under environmental modifications. Now, again, with environmental mods, there is an evaluation that has to be done first and foremost, and then there is the purchase of potential equipment and then the installation. So there is a process for all of this that's a little bit different than just some of the other standard services. But again, your support coordinator can walk you through all of that. Goods and services are one of my favorite services to put into plans. And if you think about all of these different services I've been talking about tonight, and you're thinking about something that doesn't fall into any of these categories, most likely we can put it into the service plan under what we call a goods and services request. So goods and services are services, equipment, or supplies that are not otherwise provided through the DDD budget or through some sort of generic state program. If you can't access it anywhere else, we can try to get it paid for as a goods and service. There are certain requirements that we do have to follow. And the thing with goods and services is that the payment has to go through what we call public partnerships. So public partnerships is DDD's fiscal intermediary. So think about, you have the DDD budget and you want to purchase a gym membership at the local YMCA. Well, we're going to use this middleman, public partnerships, and public partnerships is going to pay the YMCA so that your child can have a membership there. The money comes from the DDD budget, but this outside community vendor is going to get paid in a different way. So this opens up all sorts of opportunities for things like cooking classes, music lessons, tutoring, gym memberships, garage door openers, microwaves, getting a stair lift repaired, for example. If your child's getting a job and they need to get fingerprinted and there's a cost involved, we can put it under a goods and services request. So I like to get creative and think of, different things when it comes to my individual's interests and recreational interests that they have. Horseback riding, for example. Your support coordinator can talk to these outside businesses and explain to them how this can be done. That the only difference is that they're going to get a paycheck from someone else other than a family. And it's a very easy process for community providers to sign up with public partnerships, and it opens up a whole opportunity of different fun things you can do. Interpreter services. So if you are someone that needs signing, for example, in a class or at a day program, or an interpreter to speak your native language, this is a service that you can purchase with the DDD budget. This particular service is always done face-to-face. It has to be put in place so that it's going to help your child integrate more fully, either within the community or at a job. It has to be done and delivered either in your home or somewhere in the community. And it has to be also provided by someone that's proficient in reading and speaking that particular language. So again, if you want to know all of the ramifications of that and the policies behind that, your support coordinator can help you. Natural supports training. So before I talk about the training, what is a natural supporter? Well, you're a natural supporter. If you're a parent or a guardian, or if you're a teacher, you are a natural, maybe not a teacher because you get paid, but natural supporters are any person, family, a neighbor, a companion, a peer, anyone who provides uncompensated care or support for your child is a natural supporter. So if you don't get paid for what you help your child with, you're a natural supporter. Now, at times, you're going to find that you as the parent or you as the grandparent need some sort of training or maybe some counseling service. Let's say your child has a piece of medical equipment and you have no idea how to use it, but the company will come up and show you how to use it, but there's a fee involved. Maybe you need to learn how to implement your child's behavior plan. Maybe learning how to manage your child's diabetes diagnosis. So all of these types of things to help you can be put in the service plan under natural supports training. Pre-vocational training are services that provide learning and work experiences. This can also include volunteering as well. So pre-vocational training is very different from supported employment, which I will talk about. But really the goal of pre-vocational training is to help your child build skill sets and soft skills that are going to help prepare them for finding a job. So supported employment is different. They're actually getting support at a job, versus pre-vocational training is going to help them build their skills so they can eventually look for a job. So some examples, what this might look like is maybe training your child in how to communicate better with a boss or with coworkers. Maybe they have problems with how to engage or how to effectively communicate, how to follow directions, how to attend and stay on task, problem-solving skills, general workplace safety and mobility training. So all of these things would fall under the pre-vocational training service. Now, like I mentioned, supported employment is a bit different. So these are activities needed to actually help your child to find a job or to actually have support on the job at a work setting. So this can actually take place on a one-to-one basis or within a small group setting. So there are agencies out there to where they will take your child into a small group setting to a job site and maybe do job sampling, for example. Supported employment is done in the community. So this is really normally at the point where your child is ready for competitive employment within the community. Pre-vocational training, however, tends to, they will do job sampling and things like that, but they're kind of focusing more on those lighter skill sets. So what are some examples of supported employment? Job coaching, job development, travel training. So how do you use public transportation to get to your job? Any sort of training that's going to help your child be successful at getting a job or maintaining that job once they do get it, falls under supported employment. Now, before I go on, a lot of you might have questions about DVRS. Where does DVRS fall, in with all of this? If you feel that your child is ready to work, even if they need support, okay, even if they can't do a job on their own independently, you have to do a DVRS referral first. You first have to go through DVRS before you can use the DDD budget for any employment related services. Okay, so let me repeat that again. You have to go through DVRS first before you can use the DDD budget for employment related services. What will happen is DVRS will do an assessment to determine whether or not your child qualifies for services with DVRS. If they do, then a DVRS counselor or a job coach is going to work on maybe those pre-vocational skills. They're going to help your child maybe build a resume, help them find a job, do job sampling, provide support at a job. If they can't, if your child isn't eligible for DVRS, then you can use the DDD budget and use a DDD provider agency, or I should say DDD approved provider agency that can provide and offer pre-vocational training, supported employment. So you have to go through DVRS first. And then if your child is not eligible, then you can start using the DDD budget for employment related services. So I hope that makes sense. I'm more than happy to answer questions on that at the end. Okay, respite. We all need a break, right? I'm a mom of a child with special needs. We all need respite, and even our kids need respite from us. So respite is furnished on a short-term basis. It can be delivered in different ways. So maybe you just need a couple hours a week, or several hours a week. There is also overnight respite. There's also weekend respite. There is also camps that would fall under respite. There's hotel respite as well. So a DDD provider agency will take your child to a hotel for the weekend. They'll go out and do different activities. It's actually a lot of fun for a lot of the individuals to be, in a new surrounding. All of those things would fall under respite. Transportation, again, transportation is needed desperately within our state. The This is going to allow your child to get to day program if the agency doesn't provide transportation, or if you live outside of their mileage radius. It can be provided by DDD and Medicaid approved transportation providers. It could also be done by generic transportation providers and vendors. So we have a lot of people in the state now with disabilities that are successfully using Uber and Lyft, and you can use the DDD budget for that. And your support coordinator can explain how that would work. Vehicle modifications. So again, this would require an evaluation first, but if you need some sort of steering or brake controls, a lift or a ramp, or maybe you have to lower the roof or raise the roof or lower the floor, again, this would all fall under vehicle modifications, and you can use the DDD budget for that. Okay, self-directed supports. So this is something that is a bit different, and the process is a bit different, but you can use self-directed services and supports either for in the home to support your child in the home or within the community. And when you choose to self-direct your services, it allows you to have a greater choice and authority over how your child's going to receive services, from whom they're going to get it from. It's an alternative to using a provider agency, and it really helps families manage the organization, excuse me, the organization of the supports and services they receive. Excuse me. The great thing about self-direction is that you can self-direct some or all of your services. So what does this mean exactly? Well, let's just say you have a child that regularly supports your child in the home or in the community, or you have a family friend or another family member. You can actually hire them as an employee. We call them a self-directed employee. They will get paid from DDD's fiscal intermediary, public partnerships, but the money comes out of your child's DDD budget. You can pay up to $25 an hour, up to 40 hours a week. When COVID hit, DDD now allows guardians to be hired as self-directed employees. So this is amazing news for you parents and guardians out there that provide so many hours of supports for your child. You can get paid now. Many of you will ask me, well, what if I have PPP through my insurance company? Okay, that's the personal preference program I'm not going into right now. You can be enrolled and get paid through PPP as well as be a self-directed employee within DDD. You can be a part of both. You will have to name a different employer of record for each one, but a guardian can get paid in both ways now as well. So, as long as you are staying within your DDD budget, it opens up a world of opportunity for you to direct and control who are the ones that are going to be spending the majority of the time supporting your child. And like I said, maybe they go to day program 5 days a week or 2 days a week, but then you hire a family member to take them out into the community 3 days a week. You have the power to kind of arrange the entire schedule when you use self-direction. So I am happy to answer any questions on that. I do also provide a link, and I know that I believe the PDF of my presentation was actually posted in the chat. If you want to learn more about self-directed services, I do have a link here that you can check out. All right, so as you guys heard, I mentioned the term support coordinator quite a bit. Your support coordinator will help you do this. Your support coordinator knows the policies and procedures of what you'll need to do. Well, like I mentioned in the very beginning, as we wrap up now, when you complete the NJCAT, once that is done, and as long as your child is either close to turning 21 or is already 21. This typically happens around the spring of when they're graduating. DDD is going to have you choose a support coordination agency. And so this is when really you're going to start meeting with your support coordinator and talking about all of your child's interests, their goals, what are the characteristics of the perfect provider for your child. They're going to help make sure you stay within the DDD budget. They're going to help put the services in place. They're going to understand all of the policies and procedures. So your support coordinator, excuse me, as you are moving through this transition process, is going to be someone that you become very close to. And I hope you all will take the time to pick a good support coordination agency. I am here to help you. One of the things I'm passionate about is helping families walk through this process. As I mentioned in the beginning, we've been doing support coordination for over 15 years, and I have the counties listed in this slide that we are approved to provide support coordination in our state. So please reach out to me. I'm putting my phone number as well as my email. Any questions you guys might have, you're always welcome to email me or contact me personally. So I hope this helped broaden your horizons a little bit on all of these services available. And I think we are going to answer some questions now.
Sorry, I see a question here. I can see the second one. Okay, well, maybe it's why is furthering education for your adult son and obtaining a personal trainer to work on one's self-care not eligible to come under the budget?
Okay, so that is a great question. Personal training is not going to be approved under goods and services. DDD won't allow it. I'm not 100% sure why. I think my gut tells me they don't feel it's going to help them be integrated within the community. I could be wrong. I have my own feelings on it that I won't go into. The why I can't really answer. Furthering education though, you can use your budget for classes in the community. There are several college programs for special needs individuals within the state that you can use the budget for. There's also several other different types of classes that you can use the budget for. Game University, they teach kids how to build their own video games and learn coding. You can use your budget for those classes. There are policies in terms of classes, and your support coordinator can tell you specifically what those are. I'm not going to go through it right now. If you want to reach out to me, I can certainly let you know, but your child can further their education, and it most likely can be covered. So.
Okay, there was another one. Someone said their son was assessed, I guess, by the NJCAT in 2020 and was told it expired in February of 22. Why did I need a new assessment when I thought it was every 5 years?
I'm not sure. I guess it would.
I'm hearing that some people are like applying at 18, taking an assessment, and then a couple of years later asked to do a new one. But
yeah, I mean, I think I would need to know more information, like how old was he when it was 2020, so
right.
Like typically the NJCAT won't be done until around the winter of the year they're graduating. It's usually like a January, February time of that last year of high school. So if it were done earlier than that, then maybe they would decide to do another one. I'm really not sure though.
Okay, next one said we were able to use the DDD budget to get an iPad as an assistive technology device to use with the Go Talk 9 app, but we had to pay for Apple Care on our own.
Okay, I don't know if that's a question or you're just letting me know. Again, some of these things are hard. Like DDD will fight us on certain things. I'm not gonna lie. My question would maybe be, did you have enough money in the budget when you submitted it? I'm not sure. It could have been your support coordinator didn't justify it good enough. I'm really not sure. I don't know your specific case, so.
It's like an insurance product. Apple
Okay.
Care, so like an
Okay.
extended warranty, so. Maybe
That would make sense that they wouldn't use it because the actual warranty is not going to, they might see it as that's not going to benefit your child in any way. So you have to pay for that on your own. I don't know. Sometimes they give us a reason and sometimes they don't.
Someone asked if we can email this presentation, which I believe we are going to email. It's another similar question. Environmental modifications for safety, can they pay an ADT bill from the budget to keep the child safe and warned if leaving the house?
Me as a support coordinator, if I was your support coordinator, I would certainly try to get that approved. If you can have your support coordinator justify it by putting that safety issue, your child needs an alarm system because blah, blah, blah. Yes, the only thing is I will say ADT is a huge company. I'm not sure you're going to be able to get ADT approved, like to sign up with public partnerships. So that's where it gets tricky. If you can maybe find a small local company that can maybe install a system for you that's willing to sign up with public partnerships, then it would be a lot easier. But companies like ADT and Verizon and all of this stuff, they're not going to sign up with PPL. They're too big. So that would be the one issue most likely for that.
Right. The next question is, are environmental modifications available if the family rents but doesn't own a home?
That's going to have to be up to the landlord. I have encountered situations where landlords were okay with an environmental modification, but really it has to go through them.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it like a ramp if it's temporary, but not permanent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Environmental modifications proving that you are not a renter. Not sure with this. Okay. Do you have a breakdown of what services are pulled from the different parts of the budget?
I do. And I don't go into that in this because it is a little confusing, but if you want to email me, I'll send you that. It's from a PowerPoint that DDD did. I'd be happy to email it to you. Just email me.
Another question is, most music providers do not want to wait for payment from DDD public partnerships. Do you have a list of music centers that work with you? I mean, I would imagine the dear God, the iRecord.
Yeah, DDD's provider database. What's hard about that is, so usually music centers are going to be going through public partnerships because they're an outside vendor. But yeah, your support coordinator should definitely know some local music centers. If you want to email me and let me know what county you live in, I know offhand, Marble Jam Kids is very popular and they are around the areas of Morris, Sussex. If you're interested in like music therapy, I know a couple music therapy providers that are already signed up with PPL. So I do email me and I could try to give you a list.
All right. Someone's asking if a person needs a one-to-one, is that covered in the budget?
So they would have to be enrolled in the community care program waiver in order for a one-to-one be covered in the budget. If they're not, it's going to be really difficult. They won't, DDD really doesn't allow for a one-to-one unless behaviorally it's needed and they need a behavioral service plan. So, for that, although I will say they can be enrolled, I shouldn't say that. Let me back up. They can be in the supports program, but they would need the acuity. That acuity will help them get a one-to-one. So a lot of it's going to be based upon what's in your NJCAT and making sure that it's a really it really reflects what your child's needs are. So, yeah.
Here's one we hear a lot. If the budget is not used up, can it roll over to the next budget year? Also, can a parent be a self-directed employee?
Yeah, so the budget unfortunately does not roll over from year to year. If you don't use it all, it goes back into DDD's giant pot in the sky. So yeah, that's why, I always talk to my families. I try to use up that budget as much as we can every year. Otherwise, you lose it. It doesn't carry over. And yes, you as a parent can be hired as a self-directed employee.
It's interesting. There's another couple of DVRS questions, and I'm old enough to remember when it was you had to be rejected by DVRS, and then then you could go to DDD, and then there was a whole giant sheet which I have that said myths and facts. You don't have to be rejected, and here we are again. So someone says, do you have to use the DVR's eval first before you do pre-vocational through DDD?
Yes. So yes, you still have to go through DVR first. There are sport coordinators that have snuck it through, but I will say DDD is really coming down on these sport coordination agencies who have been putting in pre-vocational training and supported employment, and then finding out they haven't gone through DVRS. They're putting their sport coordination agency at risk. So yeah, you really do have to go through them first.
And then along the same lines, can you get DVRS and DDD benefits at the same time?
Right. So you can purchase other services while you have DVRS, but if you have DVRS in place, you really shouldn't need any sort of other employment services. They should be providing everything your child needs. And if not, then I would think it's time to talk to your DVRS counselor or case manager as to what needs to change. But I mean, you could be your child can have music lessons and a tutor and all of these other things and still have vocational services through DVRS.
Again, what happens if you don't use your entire budget through the year? Someone thanking you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Someone's asking, who would you recommend I contact if I live in Middlesex County? I'm guessing perhaps that's a sport coordination agency.
Right. That's what I was thinking. So if you just do a Google search for the Boggs Center on Developmental Disability, they're out of Rutgers University. They do have a list of all of the support coordination agencies in the state, and it lists which counties they serve. You could also email me and I can mail that list to you as well. I could send you the file.
And just, we have a couple of sport coordinators on the council. It's important to reach out to the agencies, interview them over the phone, ask questions, how well do they know your area, and get a feel for the agency and then the individual.
Definitely.
For the community care waiting list, they request, for community care program waiting list, they request supporting documents, but not just the details. Can you advise on what documents they should provide?
I would actually have to look at that. I haven't looked at it in a long time, so I'm not going to lie to you and tell you something I'm not 100% sure of. I'm happy to look into it though. If you want to email me, I'm happy to do what I can for you.
Okay. Alicia?
Oh, I was just going to say, for the community care waiting list, if the parents are both over age 55, the supporting document is just proof of age, driver's license or birth certificate. If you're under 55, you can still try to get on the list, but one or both parents have to have a medical condition that would prevent them from caring for their children. So they'd be expected to provide documentation from their doctor.
Awesome. Thank you.
Someone says, my son is 21 years old. I'm trying to get him a part-time job through DVR. Can they still fill out the DD application?
Yes, absolutely. And I wouldn't wait. I would definitely get on it. You could actually fill the application in once your child turns 18, but you have to have that Medicaid component in place. So as long as you have New Jersey Medicaid, yes, even if he's going through DVR, but you think he's going to need any sort of other supports or services, certainly you can fill out the application.
Absolutely. And one of the challenges is if you wait too long, you don't have the current documentation that you would have when you're exiting school. And then it becomes a real challenge to find a doctor who will see your kid and, write something up.
Absolutely. You're right. Yeah.
What is the difference between SSI and DDD?
Yeah, that's a great question. So SSI stands for Supplemental Security Income, and that comes from, it's a benefit through Social Security. So it's a federal program. SSI is going to pay your child a certain amount monthly that can be used towards food, clothing related, shelter related items. It's something that, as long as they stay within the financial income limits that the program has, they can receive that monthly benefit long term. Now, DDD is different. So DDD is the New Jersey's adult system of care. So the only way really these two are connected is anyone that's eligible for SSI is automatically going to receive New Jersey Medicaid. All right. And so DDD requires you to have New Jersey Medicaid. So a lot of the times what I'll tell families to do at the age of 18 is apply for SSI first. See if your child qualifies for SSI. If they do, that's great. They're going to get that Medicaid in place, which then is going to kind of help secure. It's not all that DDD looks at, but it is that critical component that DDD needs. So DDD is going to help you get any sort of supports and services, in the day-to-day with daily living and, employment and everything I just went through. SSI can help pay for rent, for example. If your child's going to have a housing voucher, SSI might help pay for their portion of the rent that they'll be responsible for. It could, pay for groceries, furniture, things like that.
And as you said, SSI is the key to getting Medicaid, which funds all the services from
Yes.
DDD.
Exactly. Yep.
How do we find and choose a support coordinator as well as a direct support person?
Yeah, so really, I would do some Google searches for, like I know Bergen County Special Services, they'll have support coordination agency fairs and expos online where you have actually Earl Peterson's group, Financial Wealth Partners. They just had a support coordination agency fair a few weekends ago. That's one way that you can actually go somewhere and meet some of these agencies. You could also look on the Boggs Center's website for that list I was talking about. And really, in all honesty, you're going to have to do your due diligence and kind of call these agencies, check out their websites, interview them. The Boggs Center has a whole list of questions you should be asking these agencies. And then when it comes time to find a DSP, your support coordinator will help you find and work with agencies to find DSPs. So they should have a working relationship with several different agencies that some of their other families, have used and are using. They should know who those good ones are versus, stay away from those. So your support coordinator will help with that.
And, we let families know about all kinds of events in our areas, Earl's things. So Kyoko, if you could put the Council One's email in the chat, if you send us an email and ask to be on our mailing list, you'll get all these upcoming events. We do have a separate child and adult list, or you could ask to be on both. Okay. For GNS that have been approved and have been put into the ISP and have not been utilized, attended for whatever reason, how do you get the funds put back into the individual's budget?
Okay, so these are for goods and services. So one thing to keep in mind is when you look at a service plan and you see these total numbers, these are all it is an allocation. So if your child didn't attend that gym, for example, or whatever, the gym can't bill. What you're seeing is an allocated portion of their budget being pulled out. So you're not losing the money per se, it's just looking like you're using it. So a lot of the times what you can do is you can request that your support coordinator do a revision to the plan and just end that service, take it out. If they're not going to use it, they can just take it out get the plan reapproved, and you will see that money now visible and eligible again. It's just an allocation. So, you know, everything within DDD is billed on a weekly basis. So a lot of the times you're going to see what it's going to cost for the entire year for a day program, for example. But let's just say your child, you know, doesn't end up going 6 months out of the year. They can't bill. Again, it's just an allocated amount that you're seeing there.
Okay. Someone asked if they can get a replay of this broadcast to my email, and I think we're going to send that out. My son is 21, had the NJCAT and is DDD eligible. Choosing our support coordination agency this week, he's also qualified for next year of high school due to COVID. So what services would he qualify for over the next 12 months before he graduates?
So he can use any service as long as it's not something he's receiving in school. So if he's still getting speech or PT or OT, he can't use his budget for that. You can't use day habilitation, you know, that falls between the hours of 9 to 3 when he's in school. So any sort of, you know, recreational activities, tutoring, for example, community-based supports, respite, all of those types of services you can still use as long as it's not double dipping, so to speak.
One of the challenges that we've found recently is that with the extra year of school and whatnot, DDD isn't really open and really encouraging people to get a support coordinator. They say, oh, you're still in school, you don't need to do that. So we've been encouraging them to request a support coordinator because these are the specific services. Because they say, well, what services do you want? So you should be kind of clear on what services you'd like to request and that you will need a support coordinator.
I would definitely push them a bit. Yeah, definitely.
Will I be assigned a support coordinator or can I choose one? If I choose, what choices will there be?
So you can make your top 2 choices. You could pick your number 1 choice and your number 2. Usually you will get the top one unless your agency is maxed out in your particular county and they don't have a support coordinator that can, you know, take another individual, another referral. So then normally you would get your number 2 choice. If you don't pick an agency, DDD is going to auto assign you an agency, which I do not recommend. You know, what choices will be there? There's well over 150 agencies in the state. So that's why, you know, unfortunately you have to add it to your to-do list to really take the time and research agencies.
And I think, you know, you can look at the list. It's on the DDD website. I'm sure somebody shared the link. You look at, you know, if they cover your county, if they're statewide, you look if they have that little diamond shape, that means they're approved to write their own plans and don't have to get approval from DDD. You know, and then look online, look on their website, see how long they've been around, how long have they been doing this, how many people you know, do they support? We had a nice support coordination panel that asked all those questions and gave advice on, we did not unfortunately record it. But, you know, yeah, there's a little work to be done with that. Is there a comprehensive list of continuing education courses and college programs available? And if yes, can you point me to the resources?
Yes, I do have, actually, if you go to the ARC of New Jersey's website, they have something called Go Bags. And on that website, just Google it, it'll come up. If you scroll down that website, they have a whole section about college programs in the state, those that are DDD approved and have special needs programs. So it'll pop right up there. It's a PDF that opens up. I just sent it to someone the other day. So if you want to email me, I could send it to you, but it's the ARC Go Bags. And they're just little snippets of information on things like guardianship, all sorts of stuff.
They've got a Respite Go Bag.
Respite. Yep.
Can we use the DDD budget to run background checks on potential support people?
I've never done that, but I think you can. If you're self-directing, I believe you can put that in as a goods and services request.
I mean, when you're getting ready to hire them, they have the, you know, fingerprint, they do the DD
Yes.
background check and things
So
like that.
actually, yes. So if you're going to do self-direction, public partnerships is going to require them, just as part of the onboarding process, to get fingerprinted, drug tested, and background checked. So now that you're saying that, that clicked. You don't have to pay for that. Public partnerships will require them to do that.
Yeah, I wonder if they were thinking before they were thinking of hiring them. Okay, next question. It's my understanding the NJCAT is completed within 2 years of the individual turning 21. If they apply to DDD at 18, do they then need to take the NJCAT twice?
She said then they need to take it twice.
Do they
Yeah.
need, I think, or
I
no?
think
Oh.
she's stating that.
Oh,
'cause
I
she
see.
knows.
Got it.
Yeah, Linda knows what I know Linda. She knows what she's talking about.
Okay,
I think that's going back to the other question.
right. Yeah, I mean,
Thanks,
I
Linda.
apply at 18. Can you hold off? Because you wouldn't be getting a budget anytime soon.
Mhm. That makes
Okay,
sense.
is there a separate budget for transportation to day program?
So there's not. So typically speaking, the actual day program may provide transportation as part of, the cost, in going to the program, as long as you live within a certain radius. Otherwise, if you live with outside of that radius, you're going to have to provide transportation. So sometimes they will provide a catchment area to where you can meet them halfway. And then you would just be responsible for that transportation, but there isn't a separate budget per se.
My support coordinator is saying clients have to choose billable services or they will be made inactive with DDD. What does this mean?
So what that means is, let's just say your child is brand new to the DDD system, and your support coordinator really needs to get an approved plan in place, even if there's no paid services in the plan. Really, I know our agency, we get that approved usually within under 30 days. The support coordinator has 90 days to get some sort of paid service into that plan. Does it always happen within 90 days? Not always, but that's the cutoff we've been told we need to follow. What your support coordinator means is if DDD continually sees you not using their budget or not using your budget to pay for anything, they're going to ask you, well, why did you enroll within the system? Certainly there has to be something you can find to put in. So that's most likely what your support coordinator means by that.
Got it. After the public health emergency is over, can the guardian remain the direct service employee or DSP?
Yeah, we have not heard anything yet from DDD saying that they're going to discontinue this. So we have, oh, go ahead.
Trisha, I was going to say, actually, they've made a confirmation that yes, they will continue. They will continue this beyond the public health emergency. And it was many advocates who were probably already on this call that advocated for that. So that will continue.
It's also in the manuals that were released in January of 2022. So it's in writing.
Great.
Even better.
Okay.
That's
If I have a
probably-
relative who has credentials as a special education teacher, and we'd like to hire them to work with our special needs adult child, will GDD pay more than $25 an hour?
Your support coordinator can request more than $25 an hour. They do have to get a special permission. I have not personally walked through the process, but I do know support coordinators in our agency that have gotten it approved. So yes, your support coordinator will need to do some sort of special request, but it is possible.
The next question is someone who lives in New York now and will be moving to New Jersey at the end of the year and wants to know what the process will be. His son is 39 years old and works and has self-direction in New York. Will take a lot of time to get him into the NJ system. He loves working.
So really, I mean, I can't go through the entire process right now, but your best bet is you're going to have to get New Jersey Medicaid in place first. So if he has Medicaid in New York, I believe there is a process for transferring that over first. So that'll be the first step. Once you have that, then you'll have to go through the DDD application process. So DDD has several office locations throughout the state. So you would want to just Google search and find the location that's nearest to where you live. give them a call and tell them you want to apply, that you're from New York, and their intake worker will kind of walk you through that process, but you are going to have to kind of start from scratch, unfortunately.
There may also be a residency requirement once they move to New Jersey. I'm not sure what that is, but I know that there is one.
Okay, yeah, I'm not even familiar with that, so that's a good point.
Anywhere from 6 months to a year.
Okay.
Patricia, I'm also going to add into the
Please.
response to this, the quick guide, the short guide on applying for and accessing services that might help people in many areas, but perhaps this gentleman from New York.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
Okay.
great.
Someone writes, I've heard that a vehicle can be purchased with the DDD budget for the DDD individual to be transported by their SDEs. Is this true?
I don't know.
I could use a new car.
Me too, right? I'm wondering, they must have a huge budget. I just don't even know how that would work. Like, I mean, unless it's a smaller, like, used car lot, that would,
Or,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
could they be talking about catastrophic helping with a van? With modifications?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen. I've never heard of it, but I'm not saying it can't.
If they need a vehicle modification, to make it a wheelchair accessible van, or, special controls so that they can drive themselves, something like that, DDD will pay for the modification only, but you have to purchase the vehicle on your own.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've never
I
heard
know.
of anyone using the budget to actually purchase the vehicle.
No, DDD will not allow it.
All right, someone mentions that Marble Jam, which does a lot of those music things, is located in Hackensack in Bergen
Yes.
County.
They're great. Yeah.
Okay, if you completed your NJCAT online a few years ago, can you get a copy of the responses?
If you have a support coordinator, they can view every NJCAT you've ever done and send you a copy.
Okay, someone says, can you use the budget for transportation?
Yes, definitely.
Do I have to go through DVRS if we are working with the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired program?
Anyone know that answer? I'm not certain on that one. I'm not sure. I would have to research.
I have had DDD deny services because we did not go through CBVI first.
Okay.
So that could be the same thing with DVRS too.
Okay, someone's asking about a DAC, disabled adult child.
Oh,
It's a whole
Don't ask
big
me
other
about that.
presentation. You know what? Mercedes, do you have the link for that? The one we did with Bev that we videoed?
We definitely have the link. I don't know if Kirko probably.
Is there a specific question about
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Specific about that. It's so.
A disabled adult child
Right, and
is what they call an adult whose parent has either passed away, retired, or is disabled. And so their SSI, their social supplemental security income, then switches over to SSDI, Social Security Disability Income, or it could be survivor benefits if the parent has passed away. At that point, their Medicaid through their SSI benefit would end, and they would be obligated to apply for Medicaid through the County Board of Social Services. I just know this because I've lived it.
right.
I have a family walking through this now, actually, so that was helpful.
Okay, my son was assessed at 18 in 2020, was told when we called for camp assessment that his assessment budget expired in February of 22 with an NJCAT. Good thing I called and didn't receive any notification.
Notification.
Oh, notification, sorry. Sorry, it's a distance away if it's going to expire. My son just received another assessment because it expired. Again, I thought it was good for 5 years. They told me every 2 years. If I'm the day-to-day caregiver, but not the one that has handled any of this, is there a way I can find out if he has a support person or did the NJCAT?
I don't know. I mean, you could try calling the DDD office location nearest to where you live and see if they could provide that information to you. I mean, I don't know in terms of HIPAA and things like that. You know, I don't know if you know the person that did handle any of it, that you can, you know, try to find out that information, or even, you know, if they have a support coordinator, try to reach out to them.
Okay, someone asks, how can I control the money or be aware of the budget?
I'm not sure what you mean by that question. I mean, your support coordinators should always be available to you to be able to show you. So in the state record called the iRecord, it's their online database. We can show you a picture of how the budget is currently being allocated, how much is being used. It's color coded, you know, red, green, and yellow. So I'm not sure what you mean by how do I control the money, but I mean, you should always be able to know how much of your budget you're using.
Someone asked how support coordination agencies differ.
In a lot of ways, years of experience, whether or not they can approve their own plans, which is something I highly recommend. You know, whether or not they're going to assign you a support coordinator that lives in the same county that you live in, the sizes of their caseloads, the training that they offer to their support coordinators is a big one. Again, as we've mentioned already, I would recommend going to the Boggs Center website. They have a whole brochure on the questions to ask agencies, what to look for in agencies.
It is my impression that day habilitation programs have been pretty slow to recover and reopen following the impacts of COVID-19. Does the Family Resource Network see that changing anytime soon? Day programs seem to be a critical component to enrich our son's life.
I agree 100%. I think it depends on where you live. So for example, I live out in Sussex County, where it's really, you know, rural, but they are hiring again. They are finding staff slowly. I have some agencies where, you know, I have clients that haven't been able to go back to day program yet, and they're still doing virtual. And in all honesty, I think it depends on your agency. Like if you have a really good day program agency, they tend to find staff better, or they don't lose staff as much. So it depends, but I am starting to kind of see an uptick again in terms of hiring.
And we've sent out that survey to families to find out, you know, who is receiving services and not. Should I ask for the tier that my son falls in? Also, what would happen if I moved to another county? Do I need to search for another support coordination agency? Would the services change?
Okay, yeah. So once the NJCAT assessment is done, DDD doesn't always tell you what the tier ends up being, so you can ask them. Once you get assigned a support coordination agency, we will automatically see that information in the state's iRecord, the database. If you move to another county, as long as your support coordination agency is approved by the division and can provide supports in that county, you don't have to switch agencies. The only thing that could happen is if you're making a big move, they may want to change your support coordinator. You know, if you know, your support coordinator has to drive an hour and a half to come see you every few months, unless your current support coordinator is willing to kind of keep you on their caseload and make that drive. So kind of depends.
So someone wants to know if we can provide more information regarding the council and how we can get more information regarding the county, our county, the council serves, the county. So I think Kyoko had posted that map, which shows each of the councils and when they meet. Mercedes is typing an answer, but yeah, there's a map with the numbers of the councils on them and then which counties they serve and when they meet. Oh, there's Kyoko, with the link. Great. I heard a vehicle purchased with DDD budget, same question. I think. What is the difference of the services of PPL versus Easter seals? Is it quality?
Depends who you ask. Yeah. So Easter Seals is just another fiscal intermediary a lot of people had used in the past in prior years. Both of them have issues. I'm going to be quite honest with you. Easter Seals, however, if you're going to choose self-direction, or what's called agency with choice, they do charge something called, they charge a monthly fee, basically. And that's the downside, I feel, to Easter Seals. PPL does not charge a certain fee per month. Easter Seals does.
The upside about Easter Seals is that Easter Seals retains being the employer of record. And as such, they will provide benefits, paid holidays, and paid vacations to their self-directed employees, whereas PPL does not. Of course, like Trisha said, you do pay for the privilege.
If you have the money in your budget, it really may not matter though. Like a lot of people, it doesn't necessarily affect them too much. And so it does end up being a benefit to choose Easter Seals.
I think, and especially if you want to hire a person full-time, it helps you to, be able to provide benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Margaret, just one other distinction. You cannot be the employer of record in PPL and also be the employer of record in for the PPP program, and you cannot be the employer of record for the DDD program. So you can only have one EIN in one of those two programs. So we see some people who choose PPP, the personal preference program, under PPL, and then choose the Easter Seal model under DDD.
Okay, someone's saying, I imagine the person who needs services is in their 30s and they might be brand new to this. What do I do?
It's never too late. You have to start from scratch though. So, I would see if they're eligible for the SSI. Apply for that. If they get the SSI, again, they'll get that Medicaid. And then after that is in place, you can apply to DDD. I do give a webinar that walks through that entire process. If you're interested in viewing a pre-recorded one, I could, if you want to email me, but it's never too late just because they are in their 30s. You can still walk through the process just like a high school student would be walking through.
Why don't you do support coordination in Camden County?
Because DDD does not let us. So the Family Resource Network provides direct support services throughout the state. So things like respite, behavioral supports, community-based supports. So those counties that we do provide direct supports with, DDD doesn't allow us to also do support coordination. They consider it double dipping. So we are limited to those counties.
Right. I would imagine that you'd say, well, our services are perfect here,
Right.
or they're afraid that somebody would only say something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone's saying that about applying to DD, moving out of state, that they helped a family move from Alabama to New Jersey with their 29-year-old. And as soon as they reside, they can apply.
Okay.
Is DDD a federal or state program? Wondering what happens if you move out of state.
It's a state program. So if you move out of state, you lose all of your DDD benefits. You will have to find out whatever state you're moving to. You'll have to see if there's a comparable program and what they offer. I will say DDD has a lot to offer. New Jersey as a whole. When you go to other states, sometimes it's hard to figure out even how things work in other states. But a lot of states do have programs, but you will lose your DDD.
At what age can my child have DDD services?
So you can apply at 18, but services can't begin till they actually turn 21.
Is it true that you can only leave the state for less than a month without losing benefits? For example, can you go to a warmer climate for 3 months over the winter?
So I could be wrong on this. I feel like the consumer, whoever the individual is, has to be in the state for at least one weekend a month. Am I wrong with this? Can someone help me with this?
I think,
I don't know.
Alicia, you want to say? I mean, usually it's all about Medicaid.
It's all about Medicaid, and if you're out of state for more than 30 days, they will not pay for services while you are in another state. And if you're out of country, you know, if you decide to go to Mexico for 3 months, they will not pay for services at all.
And the same,
You're out
you know,
of
if you're in the
country.
hospital for 30 days, they're not going to pay DDD.
They're not going to pay for services because Medicaid most likely is paying for your hospital stay.
Right.
So that's where that 1 week in a month kind of comes in. Like I've had people go away for 3 weeks and then they come back for a weekend and then they go back again.
And there's also the problem too, if you go away for more than 3 months, it's hard for the support coordinator to fit in that quarterly visit.
Yep. Yes, your support coordinator has to
That is a
visit you every 3
requirement.
months. Yeah.
Although if you want to invite me on, you know, to visit you all,
If you want to pay for my flight out to Cancun, I would love to come.
Okay, someone wants repeated how you can use both PPL and Easter seals as the employee of record.
So PPL would fall under the personal preference program, which I think is what was said. So for those of you that have the personal preference program, that pay comes from public partnerships. So that's where it gets confusing, is PPL is the fiscal intermediary for both PPP and self-directed employees under DDD. So I think what was mentioned is because there is an employer of record issue, some people will choose PPP, but then use Easter seals to self-direct and hire their own employees.
Okay. Did you hear about an increase of an hourly rate, moving it to more than $25 per hour?
I have not heard anything on that yet.
I think they're saying how like self-directed employees got an increase, but I don't think it was over the $25.
I don't think so. Yeah. I
no,
haven't-
self-directed employees did not get it. There was a general DSP
But,
wage
right.
increase that
Right.
went into effect in January, but that did not change the cap. There is a parent advocacy group that is working very hard to raise that cap over $25, but Jonathan has been pretty adamant that it's probably not going to happen.
Mm.
There is a process being created if you want to request more than $25 an hour because of, you know, high either behavioral or medical needs or special needs training that, you know, that the SD has to go under, but it hasn't been finalized yet.
Okay, my son has started living on his own. Is it possible to get him house cleaning services paid by the budget?
I do believe that can be put under as a goods and services request, as long as the housekeeping service would be willing to sign up with public partnerships to get paid that way. It's also possible you could also hire someone as an employee who would be, you know, let's just say 3 hours a week, and you want to pay them a certain amount to clean your house. But if you want to actually use like housekeeping services through like an agency, for example, but like a company, they would have to sign up with PPL, which is very easy. It's a tax form, and then they have to fill out how they want to get paid through either a check or direct deposit. It's very easy.
It's much more common to hire either a DSP or a self-directed employee to come in to coach the individual on doing his own housekeeping.
True. A lot of people want it done from them, and DDD may question, well, how is this helping you become more independent?
I want mine done for me.
I was going to say,
Me too.
I'm just hiring and firing. Okay, what if you leave and return back to New Jersey for another state? Will the original position in the community care program waiting list be maintained?
I would guess not, probably not, just because if you're moving out of state, you're going to lose your DDD services. Therefore, you wouldn't be on the CCP waiting list anymore. I don't know. Does anyone know otherwise? That's true or not?
I would think not unless
Yeah.
it's a short period of time, like, and you return quickly, but no, I would not.
I do know that if your number, your name comes up on the wait list and you are turned down for services, you can't get back on the wait list. So I would imagine that if you move out of state, the same thing probably applies.
So the person is mentioning that not everyone can clean their own house. Levels of independence differ for everyone.
That is true. Yeah.
Someone asked if DDD has a list of weekend respite programs.
So DDD does have something called the DDD provider database. It's a provider search database. You can only do a search for respite on there, and you could search by county. So you would choose which waiver program your child is enrolled in. So supports or community care program. You would pick respite, and then you would also enter the county, and a list is going to come up. Now, that list isn't always accurate, depending on, which agencies pop up. Again, your support coordinator, though, would probably know of weekend respite providers that they've worked with in the past. So again, if you want some ideas, if you want to email me, or if you currently have a support coordinator, they should be able to help you.
And someone had asked something about an advocacy group, and all of the 10 family support councils are advocacy groups. We meet regularly, we answer families' questions, we try to assist them, point them in the right direction, and provide them information. So
I put a link to the Regional Family Support Planning Council. I put a link to the website in that answer, Margaret.
yeah, I figured you did, but I thought just remind people we're here.
Yep.
So, and Beth, we're gonna go ahead and email the presentation slides and the recording to people. Someone asked, can you change your support coordinator?
Yes, definitely. If you're not happy, so DDD really wants you to give an agency 30 days. But if you're not happy with your agency or your support coordinator, I always will tell a family, if you're not happy with your support coordinator, talk to their supervisor, because a lot of the times they can give you another support coordinator. Sometimes you just don't mesh. Okay, it happens. But talk to the supervisor first before you just, change agencies. There are times, though, you're going to know, like, man, this agency just does not maybe know what they're doing. Like, you just get a feel. You can switch. All you have to do is fill out another support coordination agency selection form and pick who you would want it to be, and DDD will change you.
We're having a couple of questions about whether this presentation will be offered live again. Trisha, do you have anything scheduled with other groups?
I have this presentation as a webinar actually tomorrow at noon, I want to say. I do run it on a monthly basis. So if they want to email me, I could always provide a link of the upcoming dates.
Great. Good to know. We'll let other people know as well.
Yeah.
Will all the links be also shared via email? I can't download while the webinar is going.
Yes.
That's a yes. Alicia, you're looking buoyant there, floating on the ocean. You just saw your head. Okay, I think we might be winding down. Okay, well, I just want to thank everyone for attending, and of course, want to thank Trisha, our presenter. It was very informative.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mercedes is clapping there, and we want to thank everyone. We will be emailing you everything. If you signed up through Eventbrite, we've got your email, and we will go ahead and send that. I guess we'll say goodnight.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.